Hey everyone, thank you for being here. I just almost pulled a Bob and was talking, and I wasn't live yet. Thankfully, Jay is here to the rescue. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. Especially thank you if you came over from Jay's video. Thank you for watching that as well. Let's see who all we have. Sheila, Amber, Dizzy, Carly, MJ, Tiff, Donnie. Hello. We don't have Colin yet, Donnie, but I do want to hear your theories. Brooklyn, hello. Hope Ate Fear. Tiff. MJ Madeline. Can't remember. My Crazy Life. Serena. Amanda. Tracy K. Angel Baby. Drew, thanks for coming over from Jay's video. That was very nice of you to be here with us. So tonight, hey Sarah. Tonight, what I am doing is, it was my birthday on the 18th, and I just wanted to basically like hang out this Saturday night and not have to put in a whole bunch of work this week. Hi, Viv. Hi, Brooke. So I wanted to do kind of what I like to do, which is discuss theories. And hi, Jen. I'm glad you're here. Discuss theories and discuss like cases that kind of put you into a rabbit hole that you can't get out of. And so I asked patrons if they would, and on Discord, patrons and people on Discord, if they would contribute to the conversation by telling me kind of what their cases were that they wanted to either hear my take on or they wanted to give their take on. So I made a little graphic for tonight because I didn't want to just look at me all night. And so these are the people that are on this graphic are some of the people that all victims on the graphic, no suspected murderers. But I wanted to have a little something in the background. Thank you, Debbie, for saying happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you to everybody. That was another thing I was going to say is I really appreciated from Patreon, you guys did like a kudos board, which was so sweet. I only got like through like 3 or 4 of them before I was already crying. And it was just like, it was the very first thing I read in the morning, basically like after my mom texting me, happy birthday. It was the very first thing I read. And so it was just the sweetest thing to wake up to all of those very nice messages that you guys sent. Janet sent a super chat. Thank you so much. My birthday was wonderful this year. It was really good. Jay was on with Allie on Defense Diaries, and we're excited because this coming Friday, we plan to be back on with Defense Diaries for our double date episode. This will be on Jay's channel. So the Shaming of Jay, if you were just there for his video and you subscribed, I hope you hit notifications because this will be a fun live. We are going to try to convince these 2 defense attorneys why Wendy Adelson should be arrested or will be arrested. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Missy. Hey, Deja. Lily, Polly, Miss Dina. So good to see all of you. So I'm going to read out some of the things. I have new members. Oh, Carly. Thank you so very much. Okay. You said Carly and then who else, honey? My Crazy Life. Thank you. Yes, I did. Thank you. Yes, Hospice Jess. The double date episodes are fun. We've had a couple of them, and we have a really good time with Bob and Allie. We have a group chat with them anyway on our phone, and so it's kind of like just being inside of our group chat. So it will be, it's always fun. Bob is always a good time, and Allie will be there as well to rein Bob in if he goes too far. It's always fun. What am I drinking? I'm having a Riesling tonight. It's relaxed. I put ice in it like a heathen. I am not like super aficionado on wines or anything. I just like that when it's like light and it tastes good. So, who you with? Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Charlotte. So, anyway, hi, Candace. Goodness, there's lots of you here tonight. Great. I am going to read out a couple of comments that I got on Patreon about who people wanted to discuss tonight. So, and actually, I know Jessie Charles isn't here because she said she has to work, but she says she's going to watch on replay. And Jessie, your suggestion was great. I actually want to do a full show on that person, so we're not going to talk about them because I want to do a full show on them. It's a very good idea. Kat Grow, I don't know if you're here or not, but she wrote about JonBenet Ramsey. And I think we've all probably seen that meme where it's like, it's 3 a.m. and I should be sleeping, but I've decided to solve the crime of JonBenet Ramsey. This is so accurate. I can't even tell you how accurate that is for me. I seem to always go to the Reddit threads or things like that at around midnight. And I think I'm just going to like look for a minute. And then an hour goes by and I'm in only one Reddit thread and I have just read like every single comment and my eyes are bugged out. But I seriously cannot stay away from this case either. And here's what Kat has to say. So she says she believes that JonBenet Ramsey, it was Burke, JonBenet's brother, who did it, and that it was Patsy's idea to cover it up, specifically because of the detective, Linda Arndt. I don't know if you're familiar with her. If you're familiar with the case, you definitely are familiar with her. Perspective. And because she was there when John Ramsey discovered the body. And so that was Kat's thing. And Jay said that we can do polls tonight. So that's exciting because I thought, how better to see what we have in our audience than to figure out what your theory is on, for me to figure out what all of your theories are on JonBenet. So, babe, are you busy right now? The poll will be who killed JonBenet, and it's either going to be, the choices are going to be RDI, which will be the Ramseys did it, IDI, which is an intruder did it, BDI. Yes, RDI, Ramseys did it, okay? BDI, like B as in boy, and then IDI, like as an intruder. So those are basically the three working theories that people have. And I would love to see what you guys think. It's very interesting. He's been very vocal, and so has John Andrew in late years. John Andrew is JonBenet's half brother, older brother, who is John Ramsey's son. BDI means Burke did it. Burke is the brother, B brother. Sorry, these are his IDK and option. Mandy, you're the best. IDK is not. I guess you could just not vote. I have gone back and forth on this. Not my whole life. It happened on the day after Christmas, 1996. So I have gone, yes. I've gone back and forth on this for many years. Hospice Jess, yes, she has a half older brother. His name is John Andrew Ramsey. He's very active on Twitter. And so you can look him up. He has an alibi for that night. Yeah, it is like Brooklyn. It's so difficult. Brooklyn puts this up. There's evidence that was suppressed, like her having benzodiazepines in her system and her possible old SA trauma. So, oh my gosh, like it's so difficult because it's really difficult to vet information for this case because, there's people are staunchly in their theories. And so they want to convince you, and they want to leave out anything that, doesn't go with their theory. And we don't know all of the information because there was never a trial. There was a grand jury. The grand jury was sealed. So there was never a trial, and we never got to see, people testify or police interrogations. We have bits and pieces of those things. We don't have the whole puzzle. We don't have all the puzzle pieces. We have, seen some of the crime scene photos as far as the scene itself. I'm not talking of the little girl. But I'm talking about like the scene itself. There are some of those out there, but anywho, this is, Amber, she says it's putting it lightly. This is one case she's never had a solid theory on. It's very sad. It's horrible. Mandy Jo, 1996 was the year of this case. Candace, great point. Okay, so this is what I go back to on this case. And so I was going to say it's hard for me to find vetted information. So I've listened to the Consult Pod, which we've had Julia on. She's the host of Julia Conway. She's the host of the Consult Pod. She is FBI. She is a behavioral analyst for the FBI, BAU for the FBI. Sorry, that was a lot of letters. And she has 2 episodes devoted to just the ransom note. And they are talking about that on that podcast. Great 2 episodes. They are not talking about statement analysis. That's been done before. They are talking more about like criminal background and what the ransom note can tell you about the person that wrote it. It's super interesting. Didn't someone confess to it? Yeah, Carly. Oh gosh, now his name just left me. I can see his face. I'll come up with it, but somebody will probably put it in the chat. John Mark Carr. John Mark Carr, he confessed to the crime at one point. They brought him in. This was in like the 2000s. The early 2000s. They brought him in. He didn't do it. Now, since then, there's been another man who says that he's gotten letters from someone who's confessed to him in letters. Nope, there's never been a trial, Mandy Jo, because the grand jury did indict the parents. They said that they thought the parents had at least enough evidence for child abuse or child neglect, but the DA in Colorado never brought charges against the Ramseys. So there never has been a trial. Yes, exactly. Drew is so right. The whole house was a crime scene that was completely compromised by all the people in the home once JonBenét was discovered. So since we have some people here who are asking questions like about the case in general, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what happened. So JonBenét Ramsey is living with her nuclear family of her dad, her mom, her brother Burke, who is a few years older than her, and she's 6, and he is, oh gosh, I don't know. I didn't write this down. I think he's 9. He's 8 or 9. And they come home from a Christmas party that they had at their friend's the night before, and they say that they put the kids to bed. They're both actually sleeping on their way in. They put the kids to bed. The next morning, they find a 3-page ransom note that was written with articles from the home, like a notepad from the home and a pen from the home. 3 pages. So, it's not just like, hey, we have your daughter, give us this much money. It's like a essay. And so that is interesting in itself. That's why there is a lot of talk about the ransom note itself. I think that it's huge. Like, it's a giant part of the puzzle. I totally feel like I would be completely IDI. I would be totally intruder did it, except that ransom note has me totally hung up on that. I just think it's so weird. Anywho, Tiff has a great point. The ransom note says in it, do not call the police. And they call the police right away. And the interesting thing to me, Tiff, is that on the 911 call, she doesn't say, someone's kidnapped my daughter and they've told us not to call you. Please, God, don't, can you protect us? We don't want to alert them that we're calling you. We need your help or whatever. But instead, that doesn't really happen. It's like she's, missing. They've taken her. They don't say like, we're not supposed to call the police, or she gets beheaded, which is in the note. Anywho, yeah, it does have a quote from Speed. Oh, Julia, her podcast really talks about the lines from movies because they're considerable amount. In Speed, they say, he says, don't attempt to grow a brain, to the Keanu Reeves character. And it says something similar in the note. Don't attempt to grow a brain, John, or something. But no, I did not. Helen, thank you so much for becoming a member. We have had you in for the Adelson videos, and we've enjoyed having you on the channel. And now you're on this channel as well. Yeah, Jade, could be. Very well could be. So they call the police. The police come over. There is no, they don't, just like Drew said earlier, they do not at all treat this like a crime scene. They're just and they call their friends over as well, their family friends. So they call their friends over and the police come over. I don't know what it is with rich people having their friends come over at a time of a crime happening, but you see this with the Chappaquiddick. You see this. Rich people like to call their freaking friends to come over. I don't know what that is. And I'm not trying to be insulting. I just grew up without money, and we didn't have social friends that maybe we would call over in that time. But I always think it's strange. Anywho, there is a basic, they're interviewing the parents. They're doing all these things. They think it's a kidnapping. They're waiting for the kidnappers to call. And then because the detective is trying to get the parents or one of the parents out of the room, she has the dad. So Linda Arndt, the lead detective, the Boulder Police Department, this happened in Colorado, has the dad search the house with his friend Fleet White. And they find John Benet's body in the wine cellar of the basement, which is this little room. And actually this house is for sale now. It's been for sale many times and they just can't keep it sold or get it sold. It's been redone. The basement is definitely different, but gosh, a lot of things are still the same. And so it's very interesting. They still have that spiral staircase where Patsy claims that she found the note in the morning. Anywho, there is speculation that in the 911 call, Patsy says, "What did you do?" to the son in the background, but then she later says that he was still sleeping. This case was totally messed up from the beginning, because then when the dad finds the little girl, even though she is fully in rigor, he picks her up and carries her up the stairs and then lays her down, and him and the mom are laying over her. So all the evidence is contaminated. It was awful. It was so awful that, they even had to see that or had to witness that. If they weren't a part of it, it's just even more horrific. So and her cause of death is even up in the air, because you have some coroners that will say she definitely was killed by, she had a garrote around her neck, or a garrote. I don't know how to say it. It's a French word. And so some people have said that she was definitely strangled to death. And some coroners have said, no, the trauma in her head would have definitely killed her. And that was the thing that, yes, she was strangled, but it wasn't. It was the blow to her head that killed her. So, yeah, I know. Drew, I do need to go back on that story. It's so interesting to me. It's so interesting to me. So, socialites got a social, especially, yes. Like, what the heck? Like, it's also the day after Christmas. Like, I don't know. I just can't imagine. Like, hey, come on in. And yes, they did do a bad job. I mean, they did a bad job in the investigation because they didn't get the parents alone. They didn't question them very well because they thought it was a kidnapping. They thought that these parents had nothing to do with it, that nothing happened inside the home, that the crime was happening outside the home. They had no idea they were going to find this little girl inside the house and deceased. So, with the 3-page ransom note that says it's otherwise. So, interesting stuff. And like I said, like it's hard to vet information. So I did say that Julia's pod, the console, is wonderful. Another pod that we like to talk about on our stream is Zone 7 because we've had Sheryl McCollum on with us and we love her. We're all big Mac fans around here. And she has an episode where she breaks down some things with a medical examiner about JonBenét's autopsy. And the most interesting thing to me that Mac said, I cannot take credit for this. This is so smart, and I've never thought of it, and I have definitely tried to solve this case for many, many years. Mac said, like it all lies in the ransom note, which I think is true. And Max said it was interesting that there were so many French words in the ransom note and French terms used. So there's a French term in the ransom note and the French terms that occur around the Ramseys. And so from some people say that Patsy was somewhat of a Francophile and she really, enjoyed those things. JonBenét, they're saying that's why her name's JonBenét. Other people have said, no, absolutely not. It was just to honor John because she was their last child. And they named his name as John Bennett Ramsey. And so they wanted to feminize that. But they also had a dog. They had a little dog named Jacques. And she was murdered with a garrote. And in the ransom note, it specifically says to put the money, which happens to be the exact amount to the penny that John's Christmas bonus was from the company that he worked for, in an attaché. And it's spelled correctly. Attaché is spelled correctly, and it has the little accent mark in the right spot. It's just so interesting. And Mac is the one who said, like, look at all these French terms around them. Also, the little dog was a Bichon Frise. I don't know if I said that right. I never took French, so I butcher it all the time. Yes, attaché case. So, interesting theory by Mac. And you guys have to listen to that because she really gets into the autopsy itself. And the man that she has on, I'm sorry that I'm blanking on his name right now, he really goes into what he thought from the injuries. And he definitely says that, like, with that blow to the head, with all the subdural, bleeding and things, she could not have stayed. She would not have been alive long at all. And even if she was alive, she probably was not conscious. So, and then, they address, like, did she have her little nails? Was she trying to, like, get the garrote off? Some people have said that. There's a theory for every single injury, every single thing that happened. Do I think it will ever be solved? No, honestly, because people that are intruder did it. How do I search what the poll results are, babes? Oh. So lots of suspicion on the Ramsey family in general in here. Bichon Frise. Thank you, Carly. The dog. Okay. The dog, Jacques, which is interesting too, because Sheryl McCollum talks a little bit about that on the podcast as well. And really interesting because Patsy did not want that dog. And John was gone all the time. John wanted the dog and he wanted to give the kids the dog, but he was never home. And Patsy was like annoyed because she would have to be the one taking care of the dog. So her and the housekeeper were always constantly like cleaning up after the dog's messes because the dog was never like trained well or potty trained because they didn't pay any attention to the dog. So they basically end up like giving the dog to the neighbor because the dog would get loose all the time and go to the neighbor's house, and the neighbors seem to like really care about Jacques. So poor little Jacques ends up like basically being unofficially adopted by the neighbor, and Jean-Benet has to go over to the neighbor's house to play with her dog because Patsy doesn't really want the dog in the house because the dog's never been trained and the dog pees all over the place. So also interesting to me because, you know, anybody that like there's some sort of mistreatment or something with a dog, it gets the hairs on the back of my neck up. Like what's up with that? And not that you have to like dogs, but if you have one in your house, like you've agreed now to take care of it or to find someone else to take care of it. And you have to take care of it until you find the other person. You can't just hope that it runs away and goes to like a place that, you know, is going to be copacetic with it. So I thought that was interesting. All right. Just, all right. Yes, exactly. Don't give pets as a gift. Thank you so much. Exactly. All right. So, any hoozle. Did they find the dog before they found the child? They knew the dog was at the neighbors and they did not care. They like let the dog eventually live there, and it was just not a big deal to them because she wanted to get rid of the dog. So the dog wasn't even living in the house at the time of the murder. So I see that Jay is in the chat making sure that everyone knows that I'm 6 months older than him for another 5.5 months. So, all right. Interesting. It's interesting to me because there are a lot more people, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha, that think the Ramseys are innocent. So, it's interesting to me that there's only a 19% here that think an intruder did it. It's interesting. But you guys, endless rabbit holes with this case. So if you're at all interested in it, tons and tons, and you can be on it forever. And okay, so I was saying, do I think it'll be solved? No, I don't, because even if they solve the DNA, so there was DNA that was found. It was never tested because it was a degraded sample. There wasn't enough of it. I don't know. You have to listen to Mac's podcast, Zone 7, about that because she talks a little bit about it. And do I think it'll be solved because of that? No, because there's this whole thing of like it was touch DNA in the first place. And if you have been on any case and watched any lawyer just dismantle touch DNA as being something that is, you know, anything at all that can convict somebody. And then there is also some sort of fluid, but not like a man that rides in a boat or a man who rides on the sea. It was not that kind of fluid. It was, I believe, saliva. So and it was not on her body. It was on her clothing. So it's just very, very interesting case altogether. And yes, exactly. There were rabbit holes for years on this case. What's my theory? I don't even honestly, if I think about the ransom note, like I want to be IDI so bad because I really want to believe that these parents did not participate in that. But I just think that sometimes when, and I'm going to go back to people with a whole lot of money, and when people are confronted with these types of things that they're going to like, everybody's going to find out about them or whatever. I think they do some weird stuff. And I think that it seems like it could be probable, or it could be possible, plausible that Burke, the older brother, hit her over the head with something. He had hit her over the head before with a golf club. She had also been taken to the doctor a lot. And we kind of talked about, moms who take their children to the doctor a lot and moms who are attention seeking. She was also, as most of you probably know, in pageants. And so, yes, that also exposed her to probably, millions of child predators that she wouldn't have been exposed to otherwise. But it also may be some sort of thing about her parents, that they're getting attention for this type of thing. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's like you put your kid in baseball. That doesn't mean you want attention, right? It's a little different. But I think if you're a person that's, in pageants, you would probably say, no, it's the exact same thing. So, yes, there's also that. Burke was known to do some fecal smearing also. So that's always a behavior to watch out for in children, especially that are older. So, yes, she didn't take her to the doctor that much. She took her to the pediatrician a lot, not as much as Gypsy Rose. Exactly. She took her a lot. Anywho, that is what I think. I think that it was an accident, and I think they covered it up, or maybe Patsy covered it up with the ransom note, because it does really seem to me that Patsy wrote the note. I feel so bad talking about this case now that Patsy is not alive. She died of cancer. She died of breast cancer. And so, gosh, I don't know. But that's kind of my theory. Until somebody talks me out of it, BDI, I think that maybe Patsy covered it up. And I don't know if John knew it at all. The tablet was Patsy's tablet. The writing pen was Patsy's pen. The garrote was part of a paintbrush that was hers. But they've never found who, there was a duct tape in the house that they couldn't match to any duct tape in the house. And there was the garrote at the string. I don't think they knew where that came from, the nylon rope. So it may have been an intruder after all. I may be completely wrong, but that's mine. Yeah. And that's what I think, Jess. I don't think that he was in on it with her. I think that, I wish I could remember the name of this podcast that I listened to, that it was people that went to high school with Patsy and friends of Patsy's. And it was just very interesting because it just talked a lot about her psychology. If I find it, I'm going to link it. Jade. Oh man, have you not heard about this? So on TikTok, like the TikTok generation, they are so easily swayed by some sort of conspiracy. They also like to root for the underdog. And so a lot of the TikTok generation, is like the Menendez brothers shouldn't be in jail. Just any sort of famous case. Oh, OJ didn't do it. His son did it. And he was covering up for his son. So they just have very, very different ideas, I think, about crimes than we have. It's interesting. So, oh man, Stevie has a great sibling story here. His sister used to bite his toe, drag him down the stairs, and married him to his cat. I mean, yes, and the thing is like, it could have been an accident that went too far, and then there was just stuff that, she didn't want discovered. If there was something going on, like a Munchausen by proxy or something, or there was sexual abuse going on in the household that she didn't want discovered between the children or something. I don't know. She didn't want it, so she covered it up. Anywho, we're going to go on to the next crime because we could be on JonBenét all night. And I just spent a whole hell of a lot of time on her. I'm sorry. Not sorry, but It's my birthday, and this like one of my favorite cases to try to solve. So I saw that. Oh, babe, you are so right. Babe just reminded me to watch my language. He is so clean-mouthed. I think we all know that. Anywho, the next thing, and I've seen it mentioned in the chat already too, but Janet A and Tracy K, two of the best mods in the whole world, said on Patreon that they wanted to talk about Laci Peterson. And I did like on my graphic, you guys, I'm so happy about this. I'm not like trying to toot my own horn because I just learned how to do this from watching other people do it online. And so I pixelated, or I like AI enhanced the photos of all these victims because they've been shared so many times. They're like all blown out. And also because they're older photos, they're kind of all blown out. But when I enhanced this picture of Laci, it was just like, she is so beautiful. And just like how happy she is. She's pregnant in this photo. It's one of the last photos of her. Laci Peterson went missing we're on another Christmas crime on Christmas Eve from Modesto, California, 2002. Her husband has been convicted of her murder of her and her unborn son, and he is in jail life without parole right now. He did receive the death penalty in his trial, but they have since overturned that, and he is now in life without parole. However, the LA Innocence Project, not the Innocence Project. If you check Twitter today, the Innocence Project wants you to know that it's not them. It is actually a wholly different organization called the LA Innocence Project. They are trying to get information out. They say there is new evidence that exonerates or would exonerate Scott Peterson. Now, here's what I've seen as far as what that evidence would be. I saw a TikTok with Nancy Grace's old producer. His name is Patrick, and he was saying that he heard there's DNA evidence that puts Laci in the van of the two burglars that were in the neighborhood. I cannot find this information anywhere, and he did not cite his source. Everything that I find written down says that what happened was prosecutorial misconduct and he deserves a new trial. And I can agree with that if what they're saying is true, because they're saying that things that were mentioned in the trial were never provided through discovery to the defense. So that is, that's obviously not okay. She was such a beautiful person, and everybody, like, she had tons of friends. Her family loved the crap out of her. She was just, by all means, like a really, really nice woman. Her husband, whether or not he did it, I think we can all agree is a douchebag, because he just like, no one is going to feel sorry for this guy. He was having an affair with another woman while his wife is 8 months pregnant. He is making up all this crap, like this is before the internet. So, 2002, there's no like social, it's not before the internet, but it's before social media. So she can't get on and be like, oh my God, he's married on Facebook. And like this Laci lady's like posting all these pictures of him. He says that he lost his wife. He doesn't even do the more honorable douchebag thing, which is to say like you're divorced, lie about that, or say you're separated. You've heard, I know everybody here has heard that when it's not true. So he doesn't say that. He says his wife is dead. He tells this lady his wife is dead. Amber Fry is her name. She becomes a witness for the prosecution because they wire her up, because they discover this like real time. She comes in and says, oh my God, I'm seeing all these flyers. And he's telling her he's in Europe. He's in Paris at the time. It's New Year's. He can see all these fireworks going off. Really, he's at a candlelight vigil for his wife, who they are just praying is found alive at the point in time. So this guy is scum. He is a scumbag. But I mean, maybe he didn't murder her. That could be. It could just be that he has the worst luck on on the planet Earth. His alibi was also that he was fishing in the Bay area, and that's where Lacey and her unborn child, whom she wanted to name Connor, where they washed up. So the innocence people for Scott Peterson, which is mainly led by his sister-in-law, say that that's because the police like publicized his alibi. And so, of course, if you were going to frame him, you would dump her in the place where he says, he was fishing. So the actual innocence is, still like something that is up for grabs. Just 1 second. Sorry, I don't hear very well. So if there's background noise, I don't do very good. I don't know if I've ever told you guys that before. I don't hear very well. I had a lot of ear infections as a child, and it was before tubes were super popular, so I didn't get them. So I was like the guinea pig in college for the audiology students. They would come in and be like, study me because I have crazy weird scar tissue in my ears. So that's just a fun fact about me. And Brooklyn is right. All of these crimes that we're talking about tonight, all of these cases, serious trigger warnings. And if any of this triggers you, please just walk away. You don't have to be here at all. We care about your mental health more than any numbers or likes or whatever. That's the most important thing. So, any whoozle. Let's see. So we may have, a full show on this now that there's going to be this new information. I am not sure what's going to come of it. Should he have a new trial? I've seen enough shady things, I feel like, out of the trial, like about the jurors. There was some juror misconduct as well. Maybe he should get a new trial, but I lean towards that he is guilty. As my t-shirt says, I believe the husband did it. Candace, that's really difficult to live with. I'm sorry that you're learning that. And hello, Spring Kim, you're just like me. It's my one ear as well. And so this is my bad ear that I can't hear out of. And then this ear was like facing the background noise. So if that's happening, like, I'm worthless. So, oh my goodness, this is so interesting, Brooklyn. I did not know this. Katie Kool-Lady, Kathy, a wonderful guest that we have had on our show before on our channel. We had her on with Fancy Fiction. I may need to have her on because of this, just in general. She was present at the original Scott Peterson trial, and she almost became a witness. I wonder if that's because, Brooklyn, you can tell me if she saw stuff that the jury was doing. Oh, thank you so much for being here, Reverend Beezy. We are glad to have you and glad to see you. All right. So, my sister is really like on the Scott Peterson needs a new trial thing. So I told her today, I was like, I'm going to talk about him on my show. So send me everything that you can to try and prove that he's innocent. And then I just kept sending stuff back to her because I can't get over the fact of how he behaved. And that's really difficult to convict someone on. You can't just convict someone on how they behave. So maybe I'm wrong again. Another rabbit hole that you can waste all your life and time on. All right. Yes, exactly. Drew, the man here. He says Scott made anchors. He made these cement anchors in his garage. He just purchased this pond boat. He did a Google search for the boat ramp, and then he was looking at the tides. There are a lot more things that make it so that it seems like he was very guilty. Yes, Janet, this is the most annoying. I believe this is the most disgusting thing, is that he is at this candlelight vigil and he is telling Amber Fry, his mistress, that he is in Paris and he can see the fireworks over the Eiffel Tower. And really, like, people are just sobbing around him trying to find his wife. He's a real piece of work. Anyway, I mean, but he could be innocent of the murder, guilty of many other things. And that Mark Garagos was his defense attorney. And he kind of said that. He kind of was like, you don't have to like my client. Like, he's kind of a douche. But he didn't kill his wife, which is definitely how you have to go with this guy. Like, you have to go in right away being like, this guy's a jerk, and frankly, I don't like him either, but he deserves a defense. That's how you would have to go, because who is gonna, if you do the Dick Harpootlian and you're like, stand up, Alec, this is Alec Murdaugh, and we're so pleased to have you look full of shit. So Mark Garagos did the right thing by being like, I don't really like him. He's not that great. And honestly, I mean, if Mark Garagos doesn't like you, he's had some doozies of clients, and he said that. So, all right, Miss Wildside, I don't know if you're here, but she wrote in the Patreon. No, she wrote on Discord, Kyron Horman. And that's this little boy, the sole boy that's on this graphic. This is the last known photo of him. And this is the last day that he was ever seen. This picture was taken by his stepmother at the science fair that he attended at his school. And then he disappeared from his school and has never been seen again. They have never found a body. They have never found him. He disappeared on June 4th, 2010. Miss Wildside says, I think the step monster did it and he's still missing. Yes, he is still missing. So this one bothers me a lot too, Pokemon. This is a disgusting and sad case. I mean, these are all sad cases, obviously. This little boy, such a sweetheart, little child. And so he has never been seen since 2010. And the main suspect for this case, although the person has never been arrested, is his stepmother, Terry, and she was the last person to see him alive. She took him to the science fair that day, and then his classroom teacher says that he never came into the classroom that day. So she says her story is that she left. And okay, I got to go back to this because Rabbit just gave us an answer about the Katie Kool-Aid thing. Katie Kool-Aid and her friend drove to the house and took pictures of bags of concrete on the driveway prior to use. In trial, they said repair was done earlier and the pics hadn't been done. Okay, super interesting. Awesome. I want to have her on about this. Babe, we got to get her on about this. We want to have them on anyway. I was just telling Jay we need to have Fancy and Katie Kool-Aid back on again. But we need to definitely have Katie on about this case in particular. So anywho, Kyron is then not seen again. So the thing about Terry, the stepmother, is not unlike Letitia Stouch or Stotch. I don't know how you say that because I didn't watch that case. But not unlike her. She seems a little similar because she's very like wrapped up in her looks. And she starts basically like, they're monitoring her now because this child is missing and she was the last person to see him. And in her digital communications are wild, guys. Like she starts like sexting with her husband's high school friend. And, like she's annoyed that her life is the way it is right now. Like she's kind of like annoyed that her sex life is on hold because of this child being missing. So she sends a lot of crazy texts, and then a landscaper comes forward and says that she, Terry Horman, I think she goes by her maiden name now. I'm sure that Kane Horman would prefer me to call her Terry Moulton. That is her name, as they are divorced. And I'm sure he does not want me calling her by his name. So Terry Moulton had tried to hire this landscaper to kill Kane Horman. You guys, another hitman thing. Why are people just trying to hire hitmen? Just get a divorce. It is so freaking easy. It's so easy. It's so easy. I've done it twice. And it was easy comparative to murder. Now, it wasn't like great or anything, but comparative to murder, like that's why I'm sitting here and not in jail. So just do it. Just get the divorce. Everything will be all right. It's not that bad. You'll get through it. All these people that are murdering the person that tries to divorce them. Now, I'm not saying that as like a blame the victim of the person who gets murdered when they're trying to get a divorce, obviously. I'm saying it to the other person. Like, just get over it. She doesn't want to be with you. He doesn't want to be with you. Move on. Ugh. Yes, twice. Third time's a charm, though, folks. Lucky third time's a charm. Yes, Dizzy is right. He was able to get a restraining order against her. He got her out of the house. She was trying to stay in the house. It was a whole mess. It was a whole mess with this woman. And now she's just like off the grid. She's trying to, yes, as Babe points out, since I'm so much older, I've lived a long life. Yes.
It's Sawyer's beating, and if you want to say happy birthday.
He's, Mandy, I heard that you're on. I just see you. I see you on. And I think that I heard that it was Sawyer's birthday. And so I definitely want to tell the coolest kid in the world who has the birthday close to mine, happy birthday. I hope this year is awesome. I hope your slumber party went really well, or sleepover. I'm sorry, boys probably call them sleepovers. I don't know. But your sleepover went really well. I hope your trampoline park thing that you did was awesome. Zip lining. I think we all know I'm a big fan of zip lines. I am just like, I'm going to play this party noise for you, Sawyer. Happy birthday. Oh, so now everybody is saying happy birthday. Oh, somebody, Juju 2.0 is saying, thank you so much for my membership. We are so glad you're a member here. I'm so glad that you were gifted a membership as well. Any hoozle. Trampolines have their ups and downs. If we didn't have you here, Drew, this stream would not be as funny. All right. Oh, I'm so sorry, Amber. I scared the shit out of my cat, and she so deserved that. If you guys haven't seen Amber's cat, you got to check her out on Twitter, because Amber's cat is like obsessed with Steve from Publicly Buzzed, and it's so funny. It's a really funny thing on Twitter, so you got to check that out. I will never call it X, because I met my husband on Twitter. I met Jay on Twitter, and you don't want to say like, I met you on X. Like, it already sounds like you're not together. So anyway, and now when people say it, I think they're talking about their ex. They'll be like, on X or in X or whatever. And I'm like, what? All right. So Kyron, there are age progression photos out there of him, his mom, Desiree, and his dad, Kane, and his stepdad. Gosh, I think his name's Tony, have never given up looking for Kyron. And there are billboards for him. They have a very strong effort. And I think they all believe that she knows more than she's saying, whether or not she was the person who did something ultimately, whether she was the hand that did something to him, or whether, she just knows what happened, or she secreted him away or something like that. That's what Desiree and the stepdad and Kane, his father, think. So, a very, very unfortunate case, but I'm sure that they would really appreciate you looking into it, looking at Kyron's age progression photo and, following the effort to find Kyron and get justice for him. So that is on Twitter. And I think it's Find Kyron is there. I'll put that also in the description box. So, all right. Then I have Sarah, who said, oh, she had like a plethora of people that she wanted to talk about. She says she wants to talk about Kaylee. I have little Kaylee Anthony up there. The Black Dahlia, who I want to do a whole show on. So I'm not talking about her tonight. I'm not talking about that murder tonight. And Nicole Brown Simpson / the murder of Ron Goldman. So if you have not listened to, I'm going to link this one too, because it's an amazing pod. Kim Goldman's pod, Confronting OJ. Amazing podcast and such a testament to Ron Goldman, because there's not even been enough, focus on Nicole Simpson, the victim in this, but there's also never been the kind of notoriety and even recognition of Ron Goldman's name. And Kim, his sister, who was in court every single day during the trial, has put out this podcast, and it is amazing. And just expect to sob through it, because she's an amazing sibling, and she, has never, ever swayed. And her dad, Fred, have never swayed from getting justice for Ron. And they have been the fly in the ointment to who they believe and who they call only the murderer, OJ Simpson. They have been the fly in the ointment, because he has had to pay them. And, he tried to steal back his memorabilia in order to they couldn't get it. And then he went to jail for a while. So that is definitely 100% because the Goldmans would not give up. And they're just a pretty neat family. So if you have time to check out that podcast, I'm going to link it below. It's so good. It's the very first season of Confronting by Kim Goldman. Thank you so much for all of you being here. There are 75 likes. That's so nice. So great. I love it. Yes, this is such a good one. Charlotte points out this podcast, and you're wrong about the deep dive. It's a podcast where some journalists you're wrong about, and they've got some great episodes. The Columbine episode is so good. And they have episodes about O.J. Simpson. Oh yeah, Raul, I'd love to have you on. Let's do that together. Let's do it together. We would have a great show on that, I think. All right. Yeah, Mandy Jo, it is so strange that a lot of kids say, or a lot of people now, they're not kids anymore, say that they watched it or they watched the verdict in school. I remember I watched the car chase. I remember where I was when I watched the car chase. I remember where I was when I saw the verdict. But I also was this was the first real trial that I watched from beginning to end. And I watched it with my mom. Now, we lived in Kansas, and it was, the trial was happening in LA. And the year was 1994, 6/12/1994. So Mandy, if you were in the 4th grade in 94, you are so much younger than me. That's when she was murdered, and Ron was murdered as well. So we lived in Kansas, so we were Central Time. So my mom would get up in the morning, and, once California would get into court, she would start watching it, but she would record it on a VCR, on a blank tape on a VCR. And she would watch it until I got home from school. And then she would record she would record the whole trial for the day. But then we would go back to what she had already watched, bless her heart. And we would watch what she had already watched so that I could catch up. And then she liked that better too, because then we could go through the commercials. We could fast forward through the commercials. And so then we would watch, Dawn, you watched it every day with me and my mom and so many people here. Afi is a big OJ. She's one of our patrons here. And she sent me a photograph of her meeting Marcia Clark at one point in time. And I will tell you, the one thing that I really have, like, since Jay has gotten into this, the one thing that was really special to me was that I got to meet Jean Casares, and she is a journalist, and she got big during the OJ Simpson case, and she is so sweet, you guys. And I got to meet her outside of Rex Heuermann's house because she was there doing press for, I believe she was there for CNN. And I was able to just like talk to her, and I called her name out, and she came over like right away, and I was like, I have been watching you since OJ, and I am so happy to meet you, and I just think you're wonderful. And she was so sweet. She was like, oh, tell me your name. Where are you from? What do you do? She was like asking me all these questions. I'm like, no, this is about you, not me. But she was just wonderful. So super, super. A lot of people got their journalistic start and their true crime start during OJ. Vinnie Politan, Court TV was giant at that point in time. Oh, I meant to actually, hi, Granny Juju from Sarah, but I meant to say Granny Juju put her up. Hi, chat, hi. Glad you're here as well. So, the OJ thing. So I ended up being in my stepmom's, I was in home ec, the period that OJ, the verdict came in. So my mom, I watched it all day with my mom, and then I had to go to school and the verdict was coming in. But, they wheeled that TV into my stepmom's room so we could watch the verdict. It was right around lunchtime, right after lunchtime in Kansas. And I remember my friends that I am friends with to this day still talk about how affected I was by the verdict. They were like, we were really worried about you. Of course, they were, we were all 15 years old. And they're like, we didn't know if you were going to, make it after that. You were just very affected. I was very, very, very upset. I mean, I have a visceral memory of seeing Kim Goldman laying in her dad's lap crying when the verdict was read. And it's so easy for me to just, I don't know, just like go back there in time and put myself in the two families' positions. And I also have seen every single thing on the case itself, like everything that's fictionalized about the case, everything that's, documentary about the case. I watched all the stuff about OJ's Heisman run. I've watched everything about it. I cannot get enough of watching it. I've read Marcia Clark's book. I've read Chris Darden's book. I've read OJ's book, which the proceeds actually go to the Goldman family, so you don't have to feel icky about that. That's called If I Did It, but the if is like this big because they got to do that as the Goldman family. They got to talk about how they wanted the cover, and so they made the if like this big, so it just says I did it on it. And where he definitely talks about, I believe, how he committed the crime, even though he says that he was with some other guy named Charlie who doesn't exist. And yes, Mistina, that's what I was going to say, is that at the time, what's important to know about this case is that you can't just know the case. You also have to know the social milieu at the time of the case, because that was what was important, is that it was very racially divided in LA at that point in time. Whoa, aspiring court reporter has met F. Lee Bailey, and he was one of the Dream Team. I believe he was also on the Charles Manson case. I don't know if I'm right about that though, so I don't quote me on that. Don't clip that and be like, here's Shannon being wrong. So, as I was saying about the racial divide. Oh, Donnie's here. Donnie, I'm so glad you're here. I'm going to play this just for you.
Fuck your life. Bing bong.
So, Jay is trying to pawn off our children. Oh, that's fine. I'm in with that. He knows that I'm not upset about that. I mean, Pokemon, they're teenagers. Like, they're not really at like a cute age where you're like, they're more like at an age where they just tell us how much they dislike us all the time. So it's real hard. But I mean, I don't think he means to. Oh, Donnie's gonna babysit the kids. Donnie, Sloane's a really good babysitter. You could probably get her to watch little Donnie while you're watching her. Hi, Shay. We're glad you're here. Oh, I want to highlight this comment by Amber. Donnie, does your kids smoke? No, they don't smoke. They're 13 and 15. We don't want them smoking. All right, babe, make sure he's saying, not letting them smoke. Kim Goldman was the final speaker at CrimeCon. Yes. And 2019 or 2020, you were right. And her session was very impactful. She's an amazing public speaker. She's just a freaking amazing person. Yes, Charlotte, why you're wrong about the podcast talks about the social stuff around it. So basically at that point in time, there had been in Simi County or in Simi Valley, I'm sorry, where they held this case. There had been the Rodney King verdict was right before that. And that verdict was very, very racially divided as well, because it was about these cops that they had on video pulling a man out of his truck and beating him voraciously. And the cops were acquitted. So OJ then was the next trial that kind of like had a thing that was a Black person against the system. And OJ, was against the system. And Mark Furman, who was the lead detective on the case, or he was maybe not the lead. I don't know if him or Van Adder were the lead. But if Afie were here, she would know this. She would be like telling me in the chat. But he was one of the lead detectives, and he found a lot of the evidence. And they had these tapes of him using the N-word and saying things about people, and just falling in line with these cops that had just done this stuff to Rodney King. And so it was all of that. The other thing that's really interesting about this trial is how Marcia Clark was treated, because the sexism in this trial is rampant. And that is because, have we ever told you that on Jay's channel, we have a judge scale, and the judge scale goes from 0 to 10, and 10 is the best judge, and that's Judge Newman. He's the scale to which we measure. And if you're a 0, you're Lance Ito. You're Judge Lance Ito, because he was the worst judge on the planet. He had no control. The courtroom was a circus. He allowed them to make sexist jokes and say things to Marcia Clark on the record that were awful. It was just ridiculous. And the trial took forever because of him. And there was just all this stuff. So that's why he's a 0. All right. Found on NBC. I'll try to watch that. I try to watch everything. I love, love, love TV. I have always loved TV. Yep, it was a 3-ring skirt. Yes, Pokemon, there is a graphic for our judge scale. I have to update it, because we've had some judges and we need to rate some more judges that we've had. But we have some judges on there. And we usually vote on Patreon or Twitter about how we rate the judge, and the majority rules, and then we put them on the scale. It's like a literal scale. So it is really fun, and I will have to get that like circulating again, because we haven't had that for a while. Oh, Prudy can come in. Hi, Prudy. All right. This could be a weekly series. That's very true, Brooklyn. Helen, we haven't, like we actually don't put anybody on the JBN scale of judges until we've watched the full trial with them. So, I mean, Jay kind of gave me Ito because, he didn't see that trial, but because I saw it, it was okay. And a lot of us had seen it. So Judge Gull, hopefully, maybe, I don't know, will not be the judge of the Delphi trial. I don't know if that will come to pass or not, but it's just kind of what I'm hoping. And so we maybe won't have to rate Judge Gull, but there are some there are some judges that we've put on there that are close. They're closer to Ito than they're definitely closer to Ito than they are to Judge Newman. So, all right. I'm just seeing if there's anything that I have missed. Donnie, I am sorry to hear about your rash. I hope this makes you feel
Fuck
better.
your life. Bing bong.
Mandy Jo wants to know if there's going to be a contingent of people watching Vanderpump Rules in Discord on January 30th. I actually don't watch Vanderpump Rules. I do watch a lot of trash TV, but it's just something I never got into. I watched the first season with Stassi, and I just wasn't into it. And so now I'm too far back. I'm too far gone. I can't do it. I can't. It's too much. You can't catch up on it. There's no way I could catch up on it. I mean, there is a way. I would do it if I could, but I can't. So if there's nothing else, I'm looking in the chat. P's and T's for Donnie's rash, everyone. All right. Yeah. Raul is right. I guess there is the John Ray Symposium is coming up, where John Ray says that he is going to reveal, I don't know if that's the right word, but he's going to say everything that he knows about the Lisk case. Everybody who's come to him, all the affidavits, all the different people. And that is going to be on YouTube live streamed, I believe. So pay attention. If you are into at all anything about the Long Island serial killer and you are interested in finding justice for those victims, please follow Catch Lisk. This is our friend Raul. He's amazing. And if you're into also finding justice for missing and unidentified and murdered people, he has a map that will blow your mind. So please check that out. Hi, Bonnie. You're not late. I'm glad you're going back to watch the beginning. I hope it's worth your time. If not, you can always put me on 2x speed. Just zip right through it. MoFi, you're here. That's good. All right. I am just trying to see if there's anything else that I've missed. Oh, Groot's here. Good. Awesome. Oh, I'm so glad you guys were all here. This was such a fun birthday thing for me because these are things that I really want to talk about. But mainly everyone's tired of hearing me talk about them. I told you my high school friends, they've known I'll still talk about OJ. We're still, that was when we were 15 and I'll still get into it about OJ at some sort of girls' night out. And they're like, Shannon, please let this go. You've got to let this go. And I'm like, but the DNA was mixed and it was on the sock and it was at the foot of the bed and it was at the Rockingham place. It wasn't anyway, that's me anytime. So thank you so much for being here and indulging in me being able to talk about some things that cases that I want solved and victims that I want justice for, and just things that I feel really I can't let go of. And everything that I kind of talked about tonight are cases that are very much in the social conscience. So I am very well aware that all these victims that I have up here are privileged to be able to at least be in the social conscious. And that's most likely because they are not Black or brown. They're, attractive. They came from, pretty well-off families. So I definitely just want to take a moment and say that I recognize the privilege that is here, and there are many, many, many more cases and more people that need justice and need good outcomes for themselves. So, thank you so much for being here. Oh my goodness. We are going to portal, you guys. We are portaling right in. Portaling? Right into Murder Church. And that, Bob is on tomorrow. Holy cow, Bob from Defense Diaries. Bob from a great pod at Defense Diaries. Defense Diaries, if you don't subscribe to Defense Diaries and Publicly Buzzed, you've got to, because they're two amazing, amazing channels. And they're just our really great friends. So in the morning, Murder Church is about Dr. Jack Kevorkian, and it is his first trial. And so we're going to portal into that. So please like the stream, maybe leave a comment. You will get that into the algorithm. We don't really know how that works, but somehow it helps to do these things, to like it and write a little comment. And so if you can make it into Murder Church in the morning, it will be worth it. We have the greatest convos in the chat. It is supreme, like 90s fashion. Dr. Kevorkian, this case is very, very just interesting. And Bob Motta will be on, defense attorney from Defense Diaries. Follow his channel as well and listen to his pod. I am one episode behind. If you're still here, Amanda, I am one episode, Disney Nerd, one episode behind on Garcia, and I cannot wait to catch up on it. Bob and Allie from Defense Diaries are amazing. The pod is amazing. I'm going to link it below. So I hope I see you all in Murder Church in the morning. And we're going to portal there right now. Thank you so much to the mods who are here. Thank you for being amazing. Thank you to everybody who's in the chat tonight. I really appreciate it. You made my birthday just the best. And I think that it's who's on Kick at 9? What? Missy is going to be on Kick tonight, guys. Streaming on her new channel on Kick. Missy, one of our wonderful mods, has her own Kick channel now, and she's going to be on Kick tonight, 8 p.m. Central, so 9 p.m. Eastern. Check her out. All right. I know, Amanda, I cannot wait to hear it. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so, so, so much for being here. Have a great night. See you next time.